And everybody wants to do this pit against maybe like a Christian candidate, and somebody, their defense is, well, this candidate's not Christian and they're not whatever, and they don't like Jesus and they don't like blah, blah, blah. This to me is also becoming another one of those fall on deaf ear issues. Because who said the president of the United States has to believe in God or has to be Christian? Or has to enforce that everybody be Christian and believe in God? Is it a great thing to be? Personally, I think it is. But do I have to make all Americans? Do I have to make anybody who comes to this country and starts a life here? Do they have to follow that same belief? I don't think so. So when someone's like, well, God's big for me, and one person is super into God and the other's not. First of all, you don't know that. You're being fed information that's biased. You're seeing a clip on the internet and you think it's real and it's not. And second of all, I don't care. I don't care, because the whole reason we're here in this country is that we don't all have to believe the same thing. That was my soapbox.
No, but what's really important about like Christianity or a set of beliefs that are principles to you is that when I hear you're a Christian, I have check boxes to know how you're going to behave, right?
Which may or may not be accurate.
May or may not be accurate.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to make a decision and say, okay, like if I have a simple principle is that I try to give more than I get, right? Mm-hmm. And so if everybody had that utopian view, that we would be looking to the other person and trying to outgive them, right? Mm-hmm. The only way that utopia breaks down is if when you have one person that doesn't have a set of principles that is give more than you can get, and they are take more than you can, or take all that you can, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a take all you can person that enters their way into that principle, then you can see how you're like, well, I'm going to give and give and give. And then the one thing is that person is going to ruin it for the utopian guy, right?
Yeah, and I think morals, principles, things of that nature, great. Absolutely. Have a rule set of those. But don't chalk it up all under one side of organized religion and hold that as your standard.
Well, how would you... If you were to communicate to me that you had a set of principles that you believed in and lived, what would you call it? If you said you're a Christian, I would say, okay, I kind of know what that is, and I know how you're going to behave, and I know what you're going to say, right?
I mean, to an extent, you would hope you have an idea, but some people call themselves
that's
that
fine.
and do not.
And even all right, so look at the alternative. Mm-hmm. So human beings are opportunists. So somebody who's going to get everything that they possibly can. So if you're not Christian, who you're setting aside your personal, what benefits you for the sake of other people, then what would you call it? If you're a humanist or you're
a good person,
you're still going to be an opportunist, right? Mm-hmm. So how's that different than being a misbehaving Christian versus just a regular human opportunist?
I think just the labels, the organized religion labels, and people focusing on just that, I think, is the wrong thing. You know, I've said, like, even though I believe in God, I know a handful of atheists that are still very nice, giving, charitable people. I also know people that claim to be diehard God-fearing Christians who are kind of the biggest jerks I've ever seen. And so to say, like, well, you've got to love Jesus and love God and be Christian, and that's what I'm judging you on, to me is just so, that doesn't say anything. That doesn't tell me
but neither does. So you sort of have a baseline of everybody behaving badly and everybody self-serving.
Yeah. So are you asking then, like, then how do you know if they are the good person?
Yeah, if I'm going to participate with you and you know that you're going to try to give more than you get, then I want to enter a relationship with you so that I want to give more than I get. Then you have two people trying to outdo themselves to give more than they get. That is a symbiotic relationship between the two of them. If we're just opportunists and we're all in survival mode, then you're going to only give what you have to get what you want, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now we're just outmaneuvering one another and outplaying one another. So you have a whole landscape of people who are either saying they're Christian, but then working in an opportunistic strategy versus you're a regular person who's working in opportunistic strategy. We're all going to be at odds with one another. There's no sort of like moral high ground. So yes, Christianity may have eroded their brand of people making sacrificial, sort of like sacrificial, I don't know, expressions to show that they are willing to give up something personally to get the greater good. I would hedge my bets on someone who at least have the ideals, even if they're low performers in a high ideal organization, versus who have no organization and are sort of like a bar above zero, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what a term would be to use. Again, I could see someone saying Christian as being synonymous with a good person, a moral giving person. But I mean, I don't know if it's not
if you were to put money
though.
on it, and you were to put money on someone to come through on something, if they said, I am a Christian versus that I am a secular, which one carries more weight with you? Who do you think will be more honest? Who would think will be more given? The misbehaving Christian, right? There are those in there, but are the majority of Christians someone or people that will make the sacrificial expression? Or do you think the person is like, when it really came down to it, and it meant me or you, are they going to choose you when they have to make the sacrifice?
You know, to be totally honest, I would say that typically, or at least it used to be, if I would hear that word Christian, then I would lean towards them. I don't know so much anymore. Again, simply because more and more I'm seeing people throw out that label meaninglessly. You know, I'm seeing some that don't carry that label, that are just very considerate, respectful, upstanding people. I mean, to an extent, I would say yes, it still holds weight to me.
Let me tell you that. I think Christians are acting below expectation and secularists are acting above expectation. But when you plot them out on what they actually do, they're probably baseline. They're probably about equal.
Yeah.
You diminished your brand as on this side and you have exceeded brand, but they're both about the same. Self-serving, right?
Well, I mean, this is why that label, I guess, falls on deaf ears for me. You can't just say...
Doesn't work then. It's not effective.
Yeah. You can't just be like, oh, well, they're anti-Christian or they're anti-whatever. I was like, what does that mean? So you're saying they're a bad person, which in then turn is saying, well, they claim to be Christian, they must be a good person. Well, that's not necessarily the truth either. So... You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally what you mean. 'Cause we have these discussions so often that, you know, us human beings, we're trying to take the data that's in front of us and make informed decisions and make good decisions, right? Mm-hmm, None of us really have bad intentions. Like, my son and I have this discussion on a regular basis. On a time scale of where human beings have come from the times where they were killing each other and writing on cave walls to all of the innovations and technologies, we're still primitive apes, right? Mm-hmm. But if you take and be objective, we live in the absolute best of times. Every advantage, every advancement, we have every reason to excel at things. Mm-hmm. So what makes us the early, when times were tough and death was around every corner, right? Versus today when death's really not a corner, we're kind of safe. We have every advantage. What's separating us from making the world a better place? Who has the better advantage? If you're a caveman, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to make the world a better place where things are more peaceful and harmonious versus today where it's actually it can be an accomplishment in a civilized society that you can make a world a better place. If you were to look at the landscape and who works against who, you know, with more energy, I would say we have more advantage, but we're not taking advantage of it. We had less advantage, and we wanted a lot more because of the threats that were all around us. I would say with the right person, the right leadership, the right type of people in play, we have the chance to being an amazing species, but we won't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so many people are jaded about the fact that you can see so many examples of someone not doing the right thing and they come out on top. And somebody who did the right thing does not. And that's not in every example or every situation, but it's often enough that I could see how we, you know, as beings would tend to go that route then of not doing the right thing. If someone's like, yeah, that's probably the right thing. We'd all love to be doing the right thing, but what's it get you? Nothing. What's the point?
Well, all right, let's take an example. I want you to quickly think of an example of someone who didn't follow the rules and there was a strict advantage. So let's dissect it a little bit and find out what we can do. Like if we make the, you know, we can tell listeners what they can do to right this ship, right? So give me an example of somebody who proved to you that not following the rules was an advantage in our culture.
An advantage or maybe just not a downfall? I could think of a lot where it's just not a downfall. But maybe an advantage could be, I mean, anybody in politics or celebrity status. I mean, famous people all the time.
All right, so the Hawk-Tuah girl made millions of dollars by being a complete social construct, right? So an anomaly, something, whatever. And so you have someone who's intelligent, invested in their communication skills, is a good person, looking up and saying, I didn't make $1 million.
Yeah.
And she did. So the advantage was given to someone who didn't exhibit characteristics that you would think should be rewarded. It was characteristics that should have been like admonished, right?
Yeah.
So what does that do to then the young girl who's like studying calculus and saying, if I do all the right things, I'm going to get millions of dollars. I'm going to be renowned. I'm going to be celebrated. Who do we celebrate?
Yeah, we celebrate celebrities.
Stupidity! Freaking stupidity.
We make these celebrities out of a stupid
We
stuff.
celebrate stupidity and we reward stupidity. So if we get more stupidity, right, it's because we bought stupidity.
Stupidity and, for lack of a better word, I guess, drama, controversy, we celebrate. Anything that can bring attention, even in a negative way, is like, yes. Look, reality TV. How many times do you have a successful reality show where everybody gets along? Never. It's controversy and fighting and stupidity, and that's what makes them money. It gives them attention. It gives them advantage. Why? Why wouldn't somebody? Why wouldn't somebody? Look at people, I mean, to even turn politics around. When you see people that go into politics, maybe at a very young age, or somebody that you wouldn't expect to be in it, and then they get in, and they are just ripped a new one by the other side. If they're a Democrat, ripped a new one by the Republicans. If they're a Republican, ripped a new one by the Democrats, whatever. And then you almost start to see them painted in this totally different light. And they are not even at the level of like Hawk-Tuah girl. You know what I mean? Like the Hawk-Tuah is more money, more fame, more all these things. And then somebody that was actually trying to do something or make a change in the world or go into a position for the better is actually the bad guy. You know what I mean? I've seen this a couple times. I don't want to use names because anyone's going to say that's a bad example. But you've seen like people in politics just get ripped a new one as being stupid or dumb or what do they know or they have no experience or they whatever. And it's like, okay, well, here was still a noble thing they tried to do until maybe they had to play the political game. And then here is one that was not noble, was not looking to help anyone, was not doing it for any good reason. And that's the celebrated one.